So I must open with the news flash. I'm actually no longer with Radio Shack Corporation. Collective sigh across the room. As of last Friday. Next Monday, I'll be starting a new position with Intuit Incorporated as leading up their global social, mobile, and emerging media team as well. So it's apropos that we talk about leadership. I believe leadership is the next punchline in any conversation about social media business. And so I kind of 86 the sexy deck I created with Radio Shack case studies and videos and all really good stuff. I promise you it's great, and at some point maybe I'll post it just for, giggles. But now I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart, social leadership. Let's take 20 minutes to talk about it. Follow the hashtag #ElevateSocial and tweet me. And what I'm going to do is post some resources, some templates, and even this presentation to that hashtag. I think Jason will do the same as well. We're going to just have introductory conversation, and then afterwards, let's continue this over the next few days as well. So my evolution as a social media leader, if I could describe myself as that, started June 7th, 2010. Many of you were a part of this date. This was the Apple Development Conference in San Francisco. Steve Jobs took the stage and announced that 17 days later, the Apple iPhone 4 would launch to the world. And many of you got the Apple iPhone 4. Thank you. Not many from Radio Shack, though, so we'll work on that. So what did this mean for me? I was 6 months into my burgeoning new role as manager of social media for Radio Shack. Very excited, enthusiastic. We had one problem. This was the first time in Radio Shack's 90-year history that we're going to be a launch partner of a Radio Shack product, meaning on launch day we would have the product. Historically, we received the product after launch and after our competition. TV, nope, wasn't an option. Couldn't do a TV spot, didn't have the time, the production budget, or the media dollars. Direct mail, postage made that cost prohibitive. We only had 2 weeks to get the campaign started. How about POP in our stores, fixtures? That shipped probably 2-3 months ago. What was left? I remember sitting in a conference room, crammed, and we were all throwing in ideas, and everyone looked at me. Hey, social guy, what you got, right? So before that time, social media had been this nascent, emerging platform for our brand, a nice to have. It quickly accelerated 17 days later to be a must-have. Social media translated from a thermometer, which was reacting to the environment, to a thermostat, became a business driver setting the pace of change across the Radio Shack Corporation. For me, it meant overnight my skills were insufficient. The business needed a social media leader, not a social media manager. They needed someone to have a clear vision and a strategy, not someone to just manage the day-to-day copy and transactions. And so what that meant for me was that on June 24th when people launched, I was on the street level and I needed to be at a higher level. I needed to elevate my own personal skills, my personal brand, my own experiences to become a leader within the organization. So I'm going to go over just 7 quick points of what I used to elevate my own career, my own self, my own skills to position myself for elevation into the social media career. So these are just quick points. I love to hear, agree, disagree, what your own strategies are as well. And I believe these are apropos for everyone, for client side, brand side, service level operators, or even tech platforms, because it's all about driving the business forward. And to do that, we're going to need leaders of tomorrow, which is probably going to be the people in this room. So I asked myself one question. How do I elevate, all right? So point 1 was I had to quickly transform from being a community manager to a coach. Community and content is the currency of social media. It's necessary, it's vital, but it's also transferable and teachable. So immediately I had to hand over the keys to the accounts, to the agencies, and hire a team of copywriters and community managers who could take on that task, because the goal of direction for the vision was my job. And so I know it's hard. It's the hardest thing I ever had to do was watch someone manage the community on my behalf. And they didn't tweet exactly how I would, or they didn't post like I would. And they didn't run that contest exactly how Adrian Parker would have done it, but it got results. And so what I've learned is when you give your team permission to fail, you give them tools to succeed. So give them permission, hire the right people, give them permission to learn, give them time to grow into that role. Don't hold them to the same standards you held yourself to, but let them guide themselves into that community management role and become the coach. And for the record, I'm not a Giants fan, so just apropos and timely. I remember my first failure, right, as a coach was watching, we had a Twitter trend in 2010. We did 4 of them back to back to back over 4 weeks during the holiday period. Our first one bombed horribly. We picked the wrong hashtag. It was a marketing kind of catchphrase. One tip, I give this free advice. If you're using a hashtag on Twitter that's something you use internally, don't do it, all right? Start with the customer's point of view and work backwards. But the next week, we actually started with a more conversational trend, and I actually broke the record at that time for Twitter engagement and impressions. And we got an email from the CEO of Twitter, Dick Costolo, announcing that, oh my gosh, you guys have proven the case for how Twitter can be used to drive business. But that wouldn't have happened unless we had that failure the week before where we found out the true approach and true strategy for our brand in social media. The second point of elevation, I believe, is from an evangelist who is spreading the gospel of social media. Why you got to get involved? Oh my gosh, it's so new and shiny and cool. And there's still room for that, by the way. But I had to quickly accelerate from an evangelist to an educator. You see, an evangelist is more about the stats, the facts, and the figures. But as an educator, I had to show the team how to use social media. No one cares about social media usage stats if they don't know how to use social media. So I had to educate them on the action points, the deliverables, like how does this really impact my business? Walk them through things that we discuss here, like I think the Pinterest conversation was very apropos. Like, how do we really get people educated about how to use them versus saying, hey, this is new, it's emerging, check it out. Most CMOs and Fortune 500 companies, they know what social costs, but it's your job to show them the value. So show them the value and educate them versus the evangelism portion of that. I do believe there's a portion of that that's needed for emerging platforms and technology, but social as a channel and as a business driver, I think it takes more education than this pure evangelism. Number 3, Scott Cook, who's going to be my new boss's boss, I think. He's the chairman of Intuit, founded a company in 1983 in his basement, like many Silicon Valley startups. Today, he's a global leader, software company, $4.5 billion in sales. And his start actually was external advocacy. He was buying people, buying lead generation, buying influencers and outreach and getting like some groundswell around his brand. But he realized as he grew, he quickly had to switch from external advocacy to internal alignment, right? We quickly had to have a clear vision for the brand and for the team and what we really wanted to drive forward. It's not saying one has to happen and sacrifice the other, but it's saying don't forget your internal constituents are just as important. For me, I've learned this. Without an audience, there is no brand. Definitionally, a brand is the sum of your marketing communication. So with no audience, there is no brand, but with no alignment, there is no business because you're not working in the same area and going the same roadmap. So I've learned that the internal alignment was just as important as getting the wins outside the organization. And I challenge you guys as well. I mean, you're going to have, if you're on the brand side or the client side, you have several people who want a piece of the social pie, right? PR, they want to own it. Marketing says they got it. Well, HR, well, we use to recruit. We use LinkedIn, and gosh, customer service. Everyone has a stake in the ground, and don't add to that puzzle the agencies who are the media agency, the AOR, creative agency, digital agency. Everyone has a point of view on social, and guess what? They all might be right. But I believe this: leadership is plural. You can have many leaders. Leadership is plural, but vision is singular. So you own the vision. If you're an agency provider or supporter, I think it's incumbent upon us, or you guys, say I'm client side, you guys to empower your client to own the vision. Don't let them outsource the decision making. Let them outsource the thinking to you because you're smart people, but give them the power to make the decision and own that vision. It'll serve you well. The fourth point of elevation for me in this 2-year journey was from a test and learn approach to really just kind of trying things and seeing if they work, to quickly showing people that we could prove and do, right? I had to elevate from social media engagement metrics. Oh, we got likes and impressions and followers and retweets and those fun things, and tying that back to performance metrics for the business. Now, this will vary by your business unit, right? So it could very well be, based on your vertical. I was in retail. So as a retailer, our performance metrics we could measure were across 4 different verticals. One is share of voice. If you're using Radian6, Alterian, Sysomos, any number of listening tools, measure your competitor's share of voice as well and be able to benchmark that versus your conversation. For instance, at Intuit, I want to be able to say, I drove conversations around QuickBooks and TurboTax, incrementally higher than what we had a month ago or versus my competition. Show the leadership that we're driving incremental share of voice, which equals top of mind awareness. Number 2 tactic I found is measuring media efficiency. So take all the eyeballs that you garner through your campaign and compare that to a traditional media buy. And convert that to a CPM basis, right? So if it's $6 CPM to advertise on AOL and take over a homepage, guess what? My advocacy program got 2.88 CPM, right? So I saved the company $3 per CPM. Like, start thinking about the financial terms in terms of how you're measuring your media ROI, and be able to tie that back to something that you're proving the case. The third, I think, is revenue attribution. Use the traditional KPIs. Tie back your social tactic to a barcode, a unique code, a PIN number, digital tracking. You can even track digital impressions. You can track digital experience on Facebook to a .com transaction. So just close that loop. I mean, any way you can invest in tracking and invest in things that close that gap, you're going to prove your worth versus having to explain how does that 10 retweets to this conversation translate into my business. That's a hard case, and that's why we have the conversation, ROI is a dirty word, and I think we're starting on the wrong side. We've got to start from the business unit first and translate it for them. And that's our job. That's not anyone else's job in an organization but us. If you're a social media leader or the agency, I think it's incumbent upon you to translate that and provide the right context for your business partners. Can't outsource that. Next point was translating and elevating from a brand program, marketing channel, to really a business practice. And this is not the fun stuff, right? I mean, when I was community manager, tweeting Facebook and doing the promotions, that was the fun part. And some of this stuff gets heavy, right? It's budgeting, it's forecasting, it's staffing and planning. What is my succession plan for when I leave a company? What is the staffing plan for the people I need? If we don't have the budget or infrastructure to have hire a full-time team of community managers, well, how do I outsource that? Or use my media agency or my creative agency to supplement that? I mean, temporary or interns. I mean, how do you really grow the business? It's legal, it's requirements, it's a lot of things that just aren't really fun. For me, the biggest learning has been really about building a stage where ordinary people can do extraordinary things, right? It was fun being the solo rock star at a company, doing all these things, and it's really cool, but that's very short-lived. That's a very short shelf life. I think for future leadership in any social media program, you got to set a stage where ordinary people can have rock star results. And that starts with building out the practice of social media beyond just a marketing channel. That means making it something that's consumable by PR, by HR partners, by operations, by the sales force, by different constituents across your organization. Number 6 is really easy. We went from mobile as a third screen. It was kind of an extension of our marketing programs. Like, hey, make sure we have some kind of mobile banner, or we'll do an SMS text message. That was all really cool, before 2010. But now it's really accelerated to mobile as the first screen. As smartphone penetration reaches its tipping point and more people are on smartphones than ever, not only do they have the device, they're using the devices. They're using Wi-Fi connectivity. They're using, video chats and things like that. And so with that, it means that mobile has to be first in your planning. And as a social leader in your organization, you have to think about how does this tweet links to what landing page? Does that show up optimized via, a mobile device? If 40% of, Twitter and Facebook users are accessing via mobile device, got to make sure my social communication is translated appropriately. By show of hands, how many of you guys use mobile as your primary source of social communications? Twitter or Facebook? It's a good percentage. My wife has no clue what Facebook desktop looks like. I swear, it's on iPad and it's on her phone. That's it. I mean, she wouldn't even know it was the same website. So all these funky tabs we're creating with all the cool downloads, and several people aren't seeing that. And so we've got to really translate that into mobile as the first screen, before TV, before laptop and desktop. Think about mobile as your first screen of interaction. The last point really isn't fun, right? So when I wrote the social media policy in my previous job, and it was really a document, it was a guideline, right? It was giving people the skills to navigate social, giving them the philosophy of social engagement. And you know what? It quickly became something that became a protection document, right? And so a social media policy was really intended to protect the brand from itself, to protect, you know, my associates from talking bad about the brand and vice versa, and they have discrepancies or issues, and let's take that off channel. So a policy protects you from yourself, but a true leader has to deal with protection of the overall brand from people outside of just the organization. I'm talking, you know, intellectual property claims. We're talking, you know, privacy issues. We're talking legal claims, technology, licensing agreements with your partners, your agency indemnification agreements. How many of your agencies are going to indemnify you once you get the lawsuit from some random patent troll who says, hey, that functionality that has like on a website, I invented that 10 years ago before Facebook, you know, like, and it might be, you know, might be valid, but it's something you have to follow up with. And so think about it holistically, more than just the policies that empower the people, but how you're protecting the trust. Because in the end of the day, the business of social is the business of trust. And we've got to, you know, really, I think, credibly let our consumers and our leadership know that they can trust us with those tools. So I've had many conversations with legal, more than I ever want to have in my life. And imagine, you know, I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, so we've got these cowboy lawyers who haven't touched Twitter ever in their life. They've been working with the company for 25 years, and that Twitter, Facebook thing, I don't know what that is, and they don't want to know what it is, right? But in the day, I've got to explain to this guy, okay, this is what Facebook is and Twitter is, and this is what the guardrail should be for how we protect against claims and patent lawsuits, things like that. So think about that. I'm not saying you go hire an IP attorney, and understand that just to talk to an IP attorney is $100,000. So I mean, if you have a claim, make sure it's, you know, it's something you're prepared to defend yourself against. So I guess all I would offer is keep your enemies close and keep your lawyer on speed dial, because it's true. I mean, I kid you not. With the technology is increasing faster than the IQ of marketers, and I'd submit that we are not prepared for a lot of the technology issues that are going to come about. If I could go back 10 years, talk to my, you know, old self, what would that be, 22-year-old self, I'd say go to law school, learn IP law, and get a yacht. I'm so serious. And if you're in college, go to IP law now. Trust me, you'll be well paid and compensated. So here's just a quick, you know, pie in the sky. If you weren't listening to anything I said, just take a picture of that, and that's the whole thing, right? If your CMO knows the cost of social, just prove the worth. Don't try to give them the stats, facts, figures of, you know, this is why it's hot. Give them the worth. Close that gap for them. Give teams permission to fail. It's hard. It sucks. You know, it's like watching your kid ride a bike, and, you know, sometimes you got to let them fall down and get back up themselves. But it really is the only way to have a successful program that you don't have to manage day to day. The key here is building a social media enterprise that works not really because of you, but without you, right? Build a program that works not because of you, but without you. Leadership is plural, vision is singular. You got to own that strategy. If you're on the agency side or you're a provider, you really do have to be the visionary. It's hard, you're reluctant to step out and be that person who sets the pace, but somebody's got to make the decision. Return on impact, you know, that's my word for ROI. Find a way to measure it. Business, if you look, literally, the definition of business is like, you know, selling a product or service for a profit. That means revenue. So that means investment. So there's no way to have social business without some kind of ROI measure. So don't fall for the fallacy that I can't measure it. This is just fun stuff. Find a way to measure it, or use the measurements you're already doing and tie it back to social even better. Ordinary doing the extraordinary. Make an environment or a team where your rock stars can produce rock star results. Mobile first, goes without saying. I think lastly, keep your enemies close. Like I said, we could probably do a whole session just on social law and legalities and claims, because this is really a burgeoning area. And, you know, my theme always is progress over perfection. Let's Let's get it done. Let's optimize while we're flying. Let's build an environment where we could just start. Don't suffocate yourself with the data and the insights. Just really take the time to think about, what does this mean for the organization, and take those baby steps. I could easily fill a whole Social Fresh session of all my failures, and maybe I'll do that someday. But we don't talk about those now, but those lead to the successes as well. So I just offer that. So I must admit that at the beginning of the presentation, I asked the wrong question. I asked, how do I elevate? And I really do think the question is, how do we elevate, right? The answer you seek to your business problem or your client's problem is probably sitting next to you. There aren't these, wizards of social media who just didn't attend this conference and they're off in Socialville and they have all the answers. Nope. The answer you seek is probably next to you. If you're sitting by yourself, then they're probably sitting in front of you. So there's somebody here who has some value, some worth that's transferable to you. So I'd encourage everyone to network. I know I kind of asked a poll before I got here, like, what are you guys looking forward to? And it's funny, everyone said meeting. Nate Riggs. Where's Nate at? Is Nate here? I like putting Twitter handles with faces. Nate Riggs said meeting cool kids in real life. Victoria Edwards said meeting awesome people and learning new skills. That's skills with a Z, by the way. Blakely Ainsworth. Blakely is here? Blakely? Oh, there's Blakely. Hey, Blakely. I just saw your tweet. You didn't tweet me. I cyber stalked you. You said meeting good peeps, great speakers, and learning lots. And then Christina Smith said, Christina? Is Christina here? Oh, there's Christina. Meeting people who understand social business. I think, let's translate this meeting to an action, right? Swap contacts. I'll admit that some of my best strategies, some of my best learnings about social that had really immediate, deliberate results for my business came from conferences, right? And I took the template, I took the deck, and I implemented it, and it really did yield results. So, I mean, I'd say, take it seriously. I think Jason's going to post some of the decks and updates. So definitely take advantage of that as well. So Monday I'll be driving from Fort Worth to Plano, Texas. I'm going to, go to Intuit as their new leader and try to figure all this out. But, to me, what I just shared here is what I'm going to be thinking about when I get there, right? What are those kind of 7 things that are going to be required for me to be a successful leader in this organization and hopefully build future leaders? Because, if I do this job right, then I want one of you to take my spot. By the way, they are looking for a director of social media and digital strategy. I kid you not, at Radio Shack. So if you, I'm so serious. If you, my CMO, we're still cool. I mean, good guy. So if you actually, think you're up for the challenge, come find me afterwards, and tweet me, give me your card, and I'll refer you if I think you're up for it. If you aren't, then I won't pass you on. So, I'm going to post a blog post of a recap of this. I think he's going to slide share some of this as well. Jason is, and I'm actually going to post some links to some of the templates and the resources I use. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there. We just got to compile it all. So thank you guys. I think you're going to have some quick Q&A, but thank you.
All right, if you have any questions, stick your hands up so we can see you.
Got time for 2 quick questions.
I answered all of them.
Here we go. Right up front.
Chuck, yeah. We tweeted a couple of times.
Your approach to measuring media efficiency, I think, is really interesting. Do you have any pushback from other parts of sort of the communications organization with that approach?
No, actually, I stole that from our PR agency, right? So it really was, we had an entire integrated social event. It was the launch of the Evo 3D phone, and we measured the event impressions, the tweets, the post impressions, this entire kind of communications package. We measured the media efficiency, and it came from the PR team. And it was great. I mean, it was awesome, and we use that in every presentation to show that, it's not always the revenue we're driving, but we're driving savings for the company. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions? We got time for one more. All right, everyone put your hands together for Adrian Parker.